from a 100-hour turn-based RPG to a very brief blockbuster shooter. Call of Duty Black Ops 6, my goodness. There's a lot of those Black
That,
Ops games.
a lot of
Came
Black
out
Ops games. Have you
this
seen
Friday.
how many Call of Duty games there are? I looked
Oh,
at the
so
wiki.
many. I
I looked
mean,
at the wiki page. Yes, I was like, damn, that is a lot
it's
of Call of
ridiculous.
Duties we've had.
It is the cash cow that keeps
yeah,
being
it's
milked
just
and delivering for Activision, really.
100%. So yeah,
and now Microsoft.
yeah, Black Ops 6 launched yesterday, 25th of October, and just for some context, it's an interesting one purely because, like you said, Microsoft now officially owns Activision Blizzard. The deal closed properly 2023 October, I think, and this is the first day one launch on Game Pass. The first day one Call of Duty on Game Pass. So I'm dying to know long term, what does this mean for Xbox and Game Pass and just Call of Duty numbers? Like, is it going to get more people to play Call of Duty that might not have tried it otherwise? Like, I don't know if we'll ever see these numbers, but it's just such an interesting environment because this is what people were hoping for, right? Oh my God, Microsoft's buying Activision. Are we going to get day one Call of Duty? The answer is yes.
Yes.
And here we are on Call of Duty 15, whatever the hell this is in the overall franchise number.
This is the big bet. I mean, this is what Microsoft purchased. You know, they'll say mobile gaming and the revenue generated from that, and I don't think they're lying. But this, from the Activision and console business standpoint, is the biggest bet, and why they went after it. Because, like, if there is something that is going to bolster Game Pass numbers, it's this. If this does not move the needle on, you know, the subscriber numbers that haven't really been moving in the past year, 2 years, it to me signals, and I'm sure to Microsoft signals, that they have reached the peak on that, and they've plateaued in terms of bringing in new subscribers. Now, I definitely think it's going to improve the subscriber numbers, but to what degree that they need them to improve to actually see it as a marked difference, I'm not sure. You know, how do they balance that against potential lost sales? Which is more, you know, which one is more important to them? If they lock in someone 6 months on Game Pass as opposed to a single sale, then definitely they'll take that, because that's A, more money, and B, the potential to keep someone locked in because they keep seeing the value in staying subscribed. So it's an interesting thing. And like you said, I don't know if we'll ever see the full, you know, breadth of those numbers and the impact on it. But yeah, I think it's an interesting time for Microsoft, and this is, you know, the thing that is going to really test Game Pass going forward. But from a game standpoint, listen, I think Modern Warfare 3 last year was definitely a thing that they had to get out the door very quickly, and it definitely showed in terms of the campaign. Campaign was like 4 hours. It was very boring, I thought, in comparison to the previous two Modern Warfares, which I thought were great campaigns. So far, I haven't finished Black Ops 6. So far, I appreciate some of the things it's doing in terms of mission structure. I think there's far more freeform elements to them, and the ability to tackle them in the ways that you want. But so far, I'm kind of like, I'm a bit underwhelmed by what I've played. It's not hitting the same like blockbuster vibes for me, or very, you know, turn off your brain, mindless, really fun shooting for me. And so, you know, I've only played the first 3 or 4 like core missions, and I respect what they're doing, but it's just, I don't know if I'm going to finish the campaign, because I'm just like, there are so many other games that I really want to spend time with, that even an 8-hour campaign here doesn't feel so far worth my time. So I know you've had a different opinion of it so far.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat as you from an invested point of view, where I've only really done the opening missions. So like super early days, but I've really, look, I want to say enjoyed, but it's more like I'm more intrigued. Like I want to see where the story goes, but I'm also just more enjoying the gunplay and the feel of the game, as opposed to like really invested in the story. I mean, just from the get-go, Call of Duty at this stage, like we know they've done it year on year, it feels good to move around. I think we'll touch on more, but like there's this new Omni movement feature that they're touting. The shooting feels good. Like, there's no complaints from that point of view. But there's also this interesting thing where, and I don't know how much they're going to lean into this throughout the whole campaign, but there's a stealth element where, at least the missions I've done thus far, you can go in completely quietly for the most part, or you can go in guns blazing. They let you choose. And it's like, I mean, it's not like they've never done it in Call of Duty. I think Cold War, I mean, I lose track. There's so many Call of Duties now, but there are some that have been like, you know, you can do stealth, whatever. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, I hear what you say. Where's that blockbuster thing to this? Like, is it still going to come later, or like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it depends on what you're looking for in terms of a Call of Duty campaign. But it is interesting. I'm watching your gameplay now, and I think this is really driving home the freeform nature of how you approach missions, because you've taken a route through this level that I didn't even know existed. Like, we took completely different way, and you stayed completely in stealth, and so did I. So there are multiple ways you can approach this mission and still achieve the same goal. And I think that's awesome, because I think Call of Duty in the past has really been taken out for being, you know, just this roller coaster, which has its pros. I think that's why it can sometimes feel like a very tuned and very directed blockbuster movie. But I think they are trying to experiment with different ways to tell their stories and different ways to engage players in these sorts of campaigns. And I respect that, because it's very easy to just do the same thing over and over again. I agree with you. The combat, the shooting feels really good. This is what the series is known for, and I think they nail it again here. I don't know. I'm lacking some motivation from definitely the story so far. There's just like this shadowy organization that came out of nowhere, and now every time you engage in a mission, you're running into them, and they are causing havoc. And you know, I'm not super invested in the returning characters from Black Ops, so you know, maybe that is a thing that is hampering my experience. But there's elements that just don't vibe well, even with the freeform nature of the missions. Like the one you'll do after the footage you show now is more of a stealth mission akin to the one, I think it was in Cold War, where you infiltrate like the Kremlin, and it's a more not shooting, stealth, gathering intel sort of mission. And I just don't think those work in this context. The stealth in those areas is very rudimentary and boring, and you're just kind of following a path. You know, go to this point in the map, go to that point, go to that point. Cool, now you're in the shooting part of the mission, and I think that feels like it's wasting my time. But I'm curious to see, you know, the other ways in which they try and experiment with the campaign. The mission I'm on now is more like an open hub, where I've got 3 objectives and I can kind of take them on in any order, which is very similar to some of the things they tried in Modern Warfare 3. So maybe it improves. I know there's been a lot of praise for this campaign so far. But yeah, that's just my takeaway from, well, basically like the first third of the campaign, that I respect the ideas. They're just not they're not gelling with me just yet, but maybe they will later on.
Yeah. I think just I want to touch on we mentioned it earlier, the Omni movement system, which basically, in a nutshell, in previous Call of Duties, you could sprint forward and you could kind of steer where you were going forward, whereas Omni movements just removes all those restrictions, and it opens up movement in a way I didn't quite expect. I know you're saying it felt a bit weird at first, but it's kind of nice to just be able to go fast in any way you want. I don't know how you go away from that now. It's one of those changes where I wonder if they don't just keep it for future Call of Duties. And I'm pretty sure I stand to be corrected, but there's something about aiming around cover in this game where the weapon, like, it kind of like anchors you to the corner and the weapon moves with you, and it feels good as well. I think that's new to this game, and I like that. I think those are two, like, I don't know how you make Call of Duty better every year. I think you've been doing it so long. How do you introduce improvements to make it feel better? And those are two, actually, to me, like, very small touches, but that, you know, make a world of difference in how the game feels. So I do enjoy that, or appreciate that rather.
Yeah, I agree. I think initially the omnidirectional movement was a bit like, oh, this feels odd. Like I just don't understand. My brain, I think, was getting used to the idea of never losing momentum when you change direction and being able to move at the same speed in any direction. Because it's just so counterintuitive to how these games have worked in the past. But once I got comfortable with it, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think I can go back. It just feels cool. And I think, especially in the multiplayer, there's going to be instances where people are pulling off ridiculous things. Like the fact that you can dive through the air sideways, maintain momentum, and shoot at the same time is going to lead to some insane clips, I think, from multiplayer. And yeah, like you said, I think it's a change that they can't go back from, at least now, but it reinvigorates how the game feels, and doesn't just feel like the same thing year on year. The same thing with that corner anchoring. I know in Modern Warfare you could do that, but it was a purposeful thing. Like if you got to a corner, you had to click, or on console you had to click in a stick, and then you would anchor to the side of that a cover. Here it's just natural. It's like you get to a corner and it does it, and it feels good. I think it predicts what you're trying to do very, very well. And I'm never like, oh God, why is it popping me out on the side of cover as opposed to on top of it? It feels really good. So yeah, the core action is, I think, fantastic, and I'm curious to see how that translates into the multiplayer. Have you messed with the multiplayer at all?
I've played like literally 2 matches of multiplayer, and I never. It's interesting because I'm not deep enough into Call of Duty to tell you like, the multiplayer is better or worse. My general takeaway from the multiplayer is that it's good. Like it feels good. It's that signature. There's I play Team Deathmatch and Kill Confirmed, like 2 popular Call of Duty modes where it's just run around, get killed, respawn immediately. It's like non-stop action for the 10 minutes that it lasts, and it just feels good. In this game, I think year after year, in terms of sound design, how weapons feel, that sort of thing, like I can't really fault them. But again, I'm not deep enough to know like, oh yeah, like this is a step back from last year because the sound isn't as good or whatever. To me, it always just sounds good and it feels good. Maybe the hardcore fans feel otherwise. I can't tell you from our very limited time playing it. I mean, I'm obviously going to play more in the coming week or two. It feels like Call of Duty, which is a good thing. Like it feels good to run around and get, like when you get a kill streak, man, that's a signature Call of Duty thing, and it feels good to go like, yeah, I'm doing well. I'm being rewarded by getting like a UAV or a rocket launch or whatever the hell it is you've got, And I think it's got all the things you'd expect of tons of weapons, so much progression it can do, so many different attachments you can mess around with. I know there's the old faithful perk system. I think there's an interesting format here where there's 3 sort of categories, and I don't know what they're after, like the action names, but it's the usual like assault, recon, and a third one. And you can build a character choosing 3 perks from each. However, if you choose 3 perks from the same like category, so like I choose 3 assault perks, I get a bonus 4th perk included for free, which does something.
Okay. That's cool.
So it's just there's depth from that point of view as well. Like how do you build your operator, what weapon you use, what attachments you use. Like there's going to be all that depth, which again I can't talk to because I'm not deep enough into Call of Duty, but I know it's there, and just the general gunplay feels nice. So yeah. That's my.
It's funny. I think Black Ops has kind of been that the parts of this franchise that has always tried to innovate the most. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Black Ops 2 that first introduced the like build a class system where you had like 10 points and you could spend them accordingly to build the class in your manner. You determine what kill streaks you have, determine what equipment you have, but within the confines of this 10-point system, which at the time was like revolutionary for the series, because prior to that, it was a very fixed system that was introduced in Modern Warfare 4. So it's cool to see Black Ops now, so many years later, probably over a decade later, still kind of be the hallmark of the series that takes risks and does new things. And I think Treyarch specifically should be praised for that, because out of the 3 developers that this rotates between, or is it 2 now, they are the ones willing to make these big bets. And I guess they're given time to make these big bets, which is cool, because it it redefines what Call of Duty is going forward, and I think that's what's kept the series going. You know, I don't think that the series reaches the same heights, or at least feels like it is the moment of the year like it used to. I remember it used to be such a big thing, you know, when a Call of Duty released, and I just don't feel it gets the same excitement now. But it's still getting the same amount of players, and you know the multiplayer is still popular, so it's still hitting in the same way. So it's cool to see innovation in that space as well. Yeah, it is very bizarre. I think we were saying before the show, for it to start really catching up on historical events that that I'm aware of and remember. You know, like the Bill Clinton campaign and Iraq and Saddam Hussein and stuff like that. It's interesting because I guess people who are playing Call of Duty at the ages we were in, you know, the late 2007, 2008, they now have no like relevance for those historical events, but us being older kind of do. It's bizarre and weird and just interesting at the same time. You know? Just a funny thing that kind of like stuck in my brain yesterday when I played a mission and fucking Bill Clinton was on the stage at like a senator event. It was just weird.
Like, what is going on?
So,
am I old?
Yeah, what's happening? Yeah. Am I old? Yes, definitely. That's definitely what went through my head. So yeah, Black Ops 6. We'll see. I don't know if I'll finish the campaign. I can tell that you definitely are going to. Maybe I'll mess around with the multiplayer, and especially the zombies mode seems to be
that I haven't even
paid
tried
back.
yet.
Yeah, it's it seems to have gone back to some fundamentals, because I think that aspect spiraled out of control. It became like a very convoluted and complicated thing that you can just jump into and have some PvE fun with friends. And so I'm excited to give that another go and see if it really has delivered on that front. It's cool. I'm very curious to see how this pans out for Microsoft more than anything. So we'll see how that goes, you know, near the end of the year and into next year.